Jump off that exhausting hamster wheel and into balanced living with Dr. Marissa.
Promise you joy in the mystery.
Dr. Marissa, also known as the Asian Oprah. Her mission, to be a beneficial presence on the planet. Her purpose, to be your personal advocate to live, laugh, love, learn. Her life motto, don't die wondering. Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
Welcome. You are tuned into my weekly talk radio TV show called Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get happy with Dr. Marissa every Tuesday at naturally high noon out of Burbank, California with UBN Go Studios, and then replaying every Monday at 6 and Saturday at 6 PST on my syndicated CNBC NBC News Radio channel number FM 102.3, 106.5, just number one FM, and AM 1050 here in Southern California, and then on demand anytime on iHeartRadio, Stitcher, TuneIn, IDAP, blah, 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 everywhere, because I want you to be splattered with as much hope and happiness as possible, especially now during COVID season, because this is a show about hope and happiness. So there's no gossip, no scandal, and no K words at all. No Kardashian talk at all, because I want you to focus on your own reality show and how you can be happy 88% of the time. Why 88%? Well, if you're 100% happy, you're dead. We don't want that. We want you to be happy 88% because that's most of the time. It gives you a little bit of wiggle room when you're not feeling good, but most of the time I want you happy. So I have guests that help me do that for you. If you missed my shows with, Fran Drescher, Corey Feldman, Gloria Allred, Dr. John Gray, Marianne Williamson, to Marianne from Gilligan's Island, then you'll want to tune in. Go to my YouTube channel, free subscribe. You'll get most of those shows there. And it is Happy Mother's Day show today. Woohoo, 2020. A little bit stranger of a Mother's Day because of the social distancing. And my takeout order took 2 hours. My daughter was trying to treat me with my favorite food. Speaking of my daughter, if you wait till the end of the show, I'm going to do my balance bar as usual, and I've got a little montage with my kids and Mother's Day, my 2 moms and their collage, as well as some invitations and a special Asian Oprah giveaway for Mother's Day for a few people with my audio version of 8 Ways to Happiness. So stay to the end of the show for my balance bar, but I want to get right to my guest today, who I actually found on my social media. And I had thought, I couldn't remember if it was because those of you who knew Matt Embry came on, and I found him through a documentary during this season of a lot of entertainment streaming, who is the founder of MS Hope. But actually, I found out from Cheryl that I actually saw Jake's face go by, and because they call me the Asian Oprah, I was introduced to Oprah as the Asian Oprah, and she is a good friend of Dr. Phil's, and Jake was actually on Dr. Phil's. So I said, well, how about coming on my show? And they said yes, and the rest is history. And I'm so glad too, because we're still celebrating my 8-year anniversary of my show. That's 418 consecutive weeks on the air. I'll take a little more applause, Tony. And if you wait to the end of the show, I have a special 8-year congratulations from my big brother, Michael Bernard Beckwith, who didn't make it on to the end of last week's show, but he did send in a beautiful message I'll be playing at the end. So, but without further ado, I have a family. No, it's not Family Feud. It's the Marrazzo family, who is headlining Jake, who is, let me bring up I told you he was on Dr. Phil, but he actually is, where did I put let's see, he is, he has a diagnosis of Duchenne Muscular Dystrophy, And so that doesn't stop him. And I'll let him explain how he got on Dr. Phil's. He's a junior in high school, lives in Hudson, Massachusetts, where you're zooming in from today, with his parents, Cheryl and John, and his dogs, which I'll get the name of. And please welcome to the show. Woohoo! And there's your applause. I don't know if you heard that, but I'm so glad that we could make this happen and celebrate Mother's Day. Cheryl, happy Mother's Day. We'll start with this. Jake, what is the best thing that you love about your mom? The best thing that you love about your mom?
I really love that she never quits. She never gives up, and I really respect that. You know, when she's going through tough times, she'll never give up, and I really respect that about her. I respect that for both my parents.
Oh, that's so sweet. You got a pre-Father's Day message in there, John. Wonderful. And it sounds like the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, because someone is also known for not giving up no matter what. So take me back. I like to do this. I don't know much, and I purposely don't like to know a lot about my guests, because I want this time to be just as wonderfully surprising as it is for my listeners. So let's go back to Cheryl and John. I'm not going to go back to how you met and fell in love. We'll speed it up because it's only a 45-minute show. But so Cheryl, you were pregnant, excited, waiting for the new baby. And then what happened?
So Jake is actually my third child.
Okay.
So I have a daughter, a son, and then Jake, I sort of found out about him. He was a little bit of a surprise for us.
Okay. In more ways than one. Yes.
Yeah. And when he was born, he actually was a very normal child. He seemed to be a little bit late with the milestones, but not terribly late. He did have a lot of anxiety when he was a child. So many of the things that we saw him doing, we sort of attributed it to anxiety. He walked on his toes. There were just many different things that we noticed, and we sort of attributed all of that to his anxiety. And it wasn't until 8 that we heard the Duchenne Muscular Dystrophy for the first time. And his pediatrician sent us to a genetic specialist. She's like, I feel like we're missing something. And they said, oh, we're going to test him for a couple different things and muscular dystrophy, but like, it was like, no big deal. Don't worry about it. And then we got a call the next day and said, oh, you need to come back and run this CK level test again. And a CK level is typically when someone has a heart attack and they go into the hospital, their CK level is risen because of muscle death. So that was sort of when we first heard, muscular dystrophy for the first time. And come to find out, then I'm a carrier.
Which you didn't know.
No idea. I think so many of us have this genetic predisposal to something and we don't know.
Right.
And I passed it to my daughter, who found out she was a carrier as well when she was 6 months pregnant with our grandson, Tyler. So not to go too far ahead, but it's the gift that keeps on giving, because Tyler has it as well.
Yes. And why you're on my show is I love people who, it's 7 out of 10 of us who have some kind of trauma. So it's the majority of us. So why is it that the majority of us think that there's something wrong with us? Hello, the majority is the majority. So that's why I love, I want the majority of us to share, I have this. And so, and so that's what caught me with your story. So Jake, you were 8 years old, you go to the doctor, did you have any kind of reaction? Were you like relieved to find out, or you didn't understand, or how'd that go?
Honestly, I didn't really understand what it meant. I was told that I had something in my blood. And I was like, oh, okay, that's, yeah. And then they told me that, oh, that's why you've been running slower than the other kids. And I was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And I always knew it as that.
Right. So, but it doesn't seem to phase you like you did. Did you like feel sorry for yourself, or, Any kind of hiccup or like, why me?
I think towards the beginning it was like that, but towards excuse me, as I got older, I began to realize that, you know, you shouldn't live the diagnosis. You should live your life to the best of your ability. And that's what I try to do every day. And that's what I've tried to do, you know, ever since I realized that, you know what, I have this, there's nothing I can do about it. Why not just live the life I have right now? Because there's nothing I can do to change it.
Did you hear that, everyone? Did you hear that all those who are feeling sorry for themselves because they can't go outside? Hello. And you just said your book title. You don't live your diagnosis, by the way, just so you know. That's
Yeah.
I just prophesied your book title. I think that's a great book title. And I think you
Perfect.
write a great book like that. So, okay. So you find out, mom, dad, let's go to dad. What was your reaction like?
Of course, when you find out this diagnosis, this word we never heard before, Duchenne, the worst thing you can do is go on Google and ask what it is and read all the horror stories, and you were devastated.
So what are the horror stories? Because I'm not familiar with Duchenne or muscular.
Like ALS in kids. I mean, so it's, you know, they talk about death at 20, stopping and walking by 12. So you read all those terrible things.
Wow.
We had our, you know, pity party, as we called it, for a couple of weeks, and crying into coffee in the morning. And then you realize after a couple of weeks, I said, 10 years can go by and we can just keep crying, or 10 years can go by and we can just live an amazing life. And that's really what we chose to do. Regardless of the diagnosis, it's just life dealt us cards, and we have to play the hand the best we can.
So Tony, get ready with the applause. I am awarding not just Jake, but John and Cheryl, Dr. Marissa's Beneficial Presence on the Planet Award. And there's your applause, because that's exactly the message that I love to hear and to be communicated. So realistically though, let's talk for a second about how you keep positive physically, mentally, emotionally during this time, because, you know, I've been accused of, you know, drinking rose-colored Kool-Aid a lot and sticking my head in the sand, which I prefer to do. But practical, what advice? So let's go back for a second too. What's Duchenne? What's the difference between muscular dystrophy and Duchenne muscular dystrophy?
So there's several different types of muscular dystrophy. Most people have heard of SMA, spinal muscular atrophy. There's Becker, Duchenne. So there's many different kinds of muscular dystrophy. Duchenne is, I hate to say, the most popular, but it's the most common form of muscular dystrophy. So about 1 in 3,500 or so live births, male, in the world are born every year.
So only males get this?
Typically.
So it's an X-linked. So you and I have 2 X's and 1 Y, and these guys only have 1 X and 1 Y.
That
so
explains a lot about men.
Right. So I have 2 X's, and one of them is a good X, which means I can still walk and I don't have the symptoms. And the other X is the one I passed on to Jake and my daughter, but not my middle son. So it's almost like a 50-50 shot with your children getting it.
And your parents passed it on to you?
Well, so we don't know. So either my mother was a carrier, or it happened, it was a spontaneous mutation when Cheryl was created.
Okay.
Is what it was. And so boys, if they only have 1 X, they don't have the other X to, you know, sort of get around it. So they experience the symptoms.
That's why it's more in boys than girls. Okay, I get it.
Right.
And muscular dystrophy in and of itself, it is defined as your muscles atrophy at a faster rate. Is that about right?
It's a progressive muscle weakness in most cases. It just sort of depends on the type that you have as to how fast or slow it is. And Duchenne muscular dystrophy there's a wide range of symptoms.
Okay.
So basically it starts proximal. So when Jake was walking, he would walk on his toes and sort of stick his belly out for balance. So it sort of starts in that area. It also affects the heart and lungs, which is the reason that a lot of kids were dying earlier, because their lungs or their heart would have issues.
Right. And if you're just tuned in and you're wondering who I am talking to, actually there's 3 instead of my regular one. I've got the whole Marrazzo family with me today on Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It. Get happy with Dr. Marissa. And I met them on social media, so it's not all bad. And Jake was recently on Dr. Phil talking about how it really doesn't matter what your diagnosis is. You can do whatever you want. And there's a little photo. I guess the title of the show was Nothing Will Stop Me from Pursuing My Dreams. So Jake, what is your dream that you're pursuing?
Honestly, I'm not sure at this point. I mean, I'm about to go into
that was a Dr. Phil title that you I got it.
I think what he was, the crew at Dr. Phil were referring to is that, my dreams of performing, which I've been doing throughout the past couple of years. I think
already have been.
Right. Yeah. And
Okay.
I think I don't know if I'll pursue that in the future, like in college and stuff. I'm not even sure what I'll pursue in college right now. But I think my dream,
if there will be any colleges,
performing.
if there's going to be any colleges.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well,
bad joke. But okay, so talk about the drama.
So,
not the drama in your family.
In 7th grade is when I really got into it. We were doing a project for a mandatory drama class. Which was basically we were supposed to make movies and we were supposed to act in them, and then one person was supposed to direct them. And so we made movies with our iPads that we got from the school. And what we did was I acted in the film that we did, and so I really thought about, okay, how would this character act in this situation? Like, would he be out of breath? Would he, and so I sort of thought about things, and I was like, yeah, this is kind of fun. Like, I like analyzing characters like this and then putting them to a screen, putting them to stage. So I was like, why don't I audition for the school play, the 7th grade competitive play? So I did that, and that was the first show I auditioned for, and I did not get into that just because there were so many people that auditioned that I didn't get into it. But there was one thing that the proctors told us, the people who were doing it, they told us, we were middle schoolers, and so they told us, don't stop acting after this. Like, once you get into the high school next year, don't stop acting after this. And I was like, yeah, I mean, that makes complete sense to me, because this was a middle school show and high school shows are a lot bigger than that. So, I mean, that made complete sense to me. And so I auditioned for Pippin, which was the Broadway smash hit that we performed back when I was in 8th grade in high school. And I auditioned for that. And right off the bat, our drama teacher told us that everyone would get in. If 100 people auditioned, then there's probably gonna have to be some cuts, but everyone got in. So I was like, yeah, nice. And so, that's pretty much how I got started. And I felt very included in that community, and I kept doing it all the way up until this year.
Awesome. And what's your acting tip? What's the best, to get into character? How do you get into character?
Well, I would say always have something on your mind when you're on stage, whether you're about to exit the stage or whether you're talking to someone, always look like you have something on your mind. And so I always look through the script and figure out what would be on the character's mind at this moment, and how should my face show that, and how should the way I speak show and convey that.
Sounds like acting is in your future, because you're talking like an actor for sure. That's great. So what are your dogs' names?
Sorry. What
are your dogs' names?
My dogs' names are Chica and Coco.
And what kind of dogs are they?
Chica is a Chihuahua and Coco is a Yorkie Poo.
Oh, little baby ones.
Yeah.
A Yorkie Poo. These names these days, that's like so funny. Yeah. I really, especially during this COVID season, I really wanted a dog, but if I get a dog, I'll never date again. So have that happen. But that's great. I did not look at the time, Tony, as far as how much time we have left. So are we going to station break? I can't see your hand signals when we're Zooming. When we're in studio, I can see when he says 30 seconds to commercial. How much time do we have?
We have 10 more minutes.
10 more minutes. Wow, we're doing really good. So, that's because we were talking on Zoom before this. So, what is there foundations? When I had Matt Embry on, and they have a lot of support for he had. Now I'm forgetting MS. Okay. So Cheryl was kind enough when I said, "Oh, Jake has MS." No, it's MD, but apparently that's a common thing. So support systems for MD.
So the first group that we reached out to was the MDA. And, for me, I used to watch Jerry Lewis and the telethon all the time, not knowing that eventually I would have one of Jerry's kids. So that was one of the things, that was the first place that we reached out to. But really, there's a ton of support groups out there. There's Cure Duchenne, there's Parent Project Muscular Dystrophy, there's a lot of other different foundations, which actually led us to create a small foundation called For Jake's Sake. With the diagnosis of muscular dystrophy, there's a lot of things you'll need, like a wheelchair. You need cough assist machines, you need ramps, and then once you have the wheelchair, you need a van to actually get the wheelchair around, and none of them are cheap. Everything is extremely expensive.
Right.
We are very lucky. And so Jake wanted to help others that weren't as lucky as us. Get things such as ramps and things like that. And honestly, for John and I, and John can talk a little bit more about this, is it made us feel really good to help someone and to do something about it.
Yes.
And it was good for us, almost a selfish, selfish reason to do it.
That's awesome. That's
There's
awesome.
a lot of things insurance does not cover, the low
Right.
rates, and so families struggle. And we saw at one of the camps Jake went to, they were using like plywood ramps to get the wheelchairs in and out of the vehicles. And we just said, we have to do something about that. And so that's why we formed For Jake's Sake Foundation.
That's awesome. That's super. Aren't you proud of your parents, Jake?
Yes.
So
part of it too.
yeah. Now, are you feeling any weakness at all? Are you trying to proactively? Are there like a diet solution or some medication or anything? I mean, let's put the moose on the table. That's my Canadian version of talking about the elephant in the room. Okay. So Jake, so first of all, unbelievable, commend you 1,000, a billion % for your attitude, your outlook, and everything. And what helps you, like, do you ever feel like, oh my God, I'm sure your dad doesn't let you Google what he saw, but the reality of this diagnosis. How are you preparing yourself?
He did actually Google it before we were able to, because you tried to
Stop
do
him, right?
age appropriate information.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And then he did Google it and saw how Dr. Google made it sound terrible.
Right.
Yeah.
How did you feel then?
I didn't really feel that great. Especially when I figured that it affected my hands. I was like, oh God, does it really get that far? So I felt kind of like nervous, but apparently that happens a lot with a lot of Duchenne kids. Like they'll get older, and as they get older, they'll start to look things up and find more about things.
Absolutely. And what do you say to yourself when you see those things?
Well, I think we try to look at the positives. Like,
okay,
there's a lot of men living with Duchenne, and we tend to focus right on
what we
Absolutely.
see.
And he absolutely showed that when he first came on. And I want to balance that out, because if there's a method to my madness here, Mom. Hang on with me. So I want my listeners to know how to process bad stuff, right? That's real. And then, because that's not how I know that's not where you are. So it's helpful for people to hear the kinds of things that you tell yourself in order to move yourself from Googling that and going, oh my God, it's going to affect my hands. Then what do you say to get to the point where you started the show, where you went, I'm not my diagnosis and I can blah, blah, blah. So I want to dissect that jump, because I think it's so important that it's not a light switch. You don't wake up and, Google that stuff and then go, oh, I'm fine. There's a process here. And so I'm trying to pull that from you, because it's so helpful. And the only people who really can teach this stuff are the people who are going through it. So when I had on Greg O'Brien, who's early onset Alzheimer's, I can have a doctor on the show say, this is how you deal with Alzheimer's. And everybody goes, oh yeah, okay, that's from a doctor's point of view.
Yeah.
Same with my book on happiness. I don't talk to you on how to be 8 ways to happiness as a psychologist. I'm a psychologist, but I talk about it as a child who went through beatings and still knows how to be happy, and now teaches how to be. So you, more than your mom and dad, understand what it's like to actually have Duchenne's muscular dystrophy. And I get that they've been great teachers and role models on how to get to that. But what do? You Google that stuff, you go, oh my God, it's going to affect my hands. Then what do you say?
Well, mainly what I think about is the fact that there is research going on, and that technology is so much better than it was, back in, say, like late 70s, where I maybe would not even be around right now. So I always try to think of that technology always gets better, and that my nephew, he may be very healthy and he may not even be in a wheelchair by the time, age 12 hits. But of course we don't know that, but like technology gets better by the minute that we sort of understand that. But yeah, I mean, that's sort of the scientific point of view of it, to think that, technology does often get better by age.
Okay. So hope, that's one strategy. You're focusing on the best case scenario and not the worst case scenario. So it's going to affect my hands. You could have said, oh my God, and then my feet, and then my face, and then like go down that rabbit hole of worst case scenario. Why bother getting out of bed? Why bother trying? Why bother helping other people when this is not fair? Why is this happening to me? And I'm not saying you don't go there, but it's obvious you don't go there very often. Yeah. And so the hope side, the best case scenario side, is, I hope I'm not putting words in your mouth, that sounds like the strategy you're going for.
Yes.
Yeah. Perfect. So, let's see. How old are you now?
17. I forgot for a second. Sorry.
We forget. So are you dating yet?
Nope. Especially not now. Haven't had my first kiss, haven't had none of that.
Oh, okay. So if you were to design your first date, what would she be like, and what would you be doing? Well, this is a G-rated show, so let's just start with what kind of girls are you attracted to? Maybe we can find you one.
Oh geez. One that's very intelligent, one that's kind, one that doesn't, someone that isn't afraid to tell me when I'm not doing something right, or like just always give me the truth. And the truth can be hard to hear sometimes, but you want to always hear the truth. I don't want someone doesn't want to tell me it. I want someone that is strong and wants me to tell me how it is, tell it like it is.
Awesome. And do you like older women or younger? You're too old for me. Don't worry.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm not attracted to women that are 62, but I'm not attracted to women that
Are you calling me 62?
No. I'm just saying in general, not no.
I'm actually 99. No, that's great. That's
You look
great.
great,
And
yeah.
I look great for 99. Thank you so much. You know what? I just got the actual signal that we're going to go to commercial break. So stay tuned. We'll be back in 2 and 2. Peace in, peace out. World peace through inner peace.
1 in 4 Americans are currently on anti-anxiety and anti-depression medication, and many are still depressed and anxious, and now have side effects on top of it. If you're ready to shovel out the shiitake of past pain and future fear and put it back as fertilizer to grow the beauty that you are, order Dr. Marissa's newest book, 8 Ways to Happiness, from wherever you are, coming out August 7th to bookstore near you, and you will never hate yourself the same way again.
And we are back. You are tuned into my weekly syndicated talk radio TV show called Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It. Get Happy with Dr. Marissa, formerly known as Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, winner of the 2016 Podcast of the Year Award out of 440,000 podcasts and 100 million downloads. And I'm only mentioning that because I'm celebrating 8 years this and last week on the air, 418 consecutive weeks. And I'm so grateful for your continued support in this show about hope and happiness. And today we have a guest. Oh, before I forget to, if you are just tuning in now, you want to hear the whole show, don't worry about it. If you're tuned in on Tuesday, naturally high noon, that's the regular time out of UBN Go Studios in Burbank, California. And then every Monday at 6, Saturday at 6 prime time, Pacific Standard Time on my CNBC, NBC News Radio channel, KCAA, AM 1050, FM 102.3.5, FM 106.5, home to Dave Ramsey and the Asian Oprah. And today we have on my show a beautiful family that I found on social media, and it's the Marrazzos. I hope I'm pronouncing that well. And it's Cheryl and John flanking the star of the show, Jake Marrazzo, who has just come on off of Dr. Phil's stage. How did that happen?
So I had worked with the pharmaceutical company Pfizer before. I'm not sure if you've heard of it, but
I do.
Pfizer's a very so I've worked with them before on one project which was called Dear Scientist, where I wrote a letter to a scientist that was curing my specific disease or working towards that, finding research, etc. And so Pfizer emailed my mom. I found out while I was on the toilet, so That
a TMI, Mom? Yeah.
Sorry.
It's true though. It's true.
Yeah, okay. Go ahead, keep going. Yeah. My mom got an email that from Pfizer that was saying that they wanted me to be on Dr. Phil on a sponsored segment. And that's pretty much how that came to be. We went out to LA and we filmed the show.
We were just on a small segment though. We weren't the whole show.
Yeah, but still.
But we were like, I was like, heck yeah, we definitely want to be a part of that.
Yeah. It's too bad I didn't know you were here before you were here. You could have come live to the studio. Although, when was that?
February. It was right before. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
February 19th, we filmed.
Yeah, February 19th.
Yeah.
So Jake was actually on vacation that week. And then we've been home since March 13th, Jake and I.
Yeah.
And John's been working from home too. So it's definitely a little different.
Yeah. So how did it feel on Dr. Phil's set? Did you have any impression of him?
Yeah, I thought he was a really nice guy, and the set was really amazing to be on. I saw it on YouTube and stuff, and I was like, well, I'm actually here now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
pretty cool, right?
Pretty cool experience. And
Yeah.
Dr. Phil was really kind.
Yeah.
He took
That's
pictures with us
great.
after, and
That's so great. Yeah. I love one thing he says, and I quote him quite a bit with this is you cannot unring a bell.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So be careful what you say because even if you apologize, you still can't take it back.
exactly.
Right. Yeah.
Mhm.
Good. So Dr. Phil, and now what's next? You're going to help people with wheelchairs. You're maybe going to do acting, pursuing acting. What's next for everybody?
Summer vacation.
Yeah.
No staycations. Everybody's been staying too long, right? Oh, I know what I was going to ask you. So your siblings. So you have two older siblings, yes, and how's that whole dynamic with you having Duchenne's? Do you get treated differently? Kid gloves?
Oh
Do you
no.
get-
Yeah,
no?
I love my siblings. Yeah, they
Did we treat you
yeah.
differently?
No differently. Did you ever get
Yeah.
teased at school?
Did I ever get teased? I find that no, I haven't really found that I've been, teased a lot. I mean, I don't think it's very common for kids in wheelchairs to really be bullied. I feel like it's more, I don't know, but yeah, I just don't really find it very common in a lot of people I know.
I think maybe before he ended up in the wheelchair when he was 12. I think some of the years before that, because he kind of walked funny and wasn't as fast, I think there may have been a little bit of, kids can be cruel sometimes. It may have been a little bit back in those days.
Right.
But Jake just said,
I love, I don't, I love being at school. It's not, in my freshman year, I was freshman homecoming king. So, if there's some kids with Duchenne like out there that are being picked on, let me just say, like, you don't deserve that, and things will get better. I promise you.
Aw, that's beautiful and wonderful. I'm going to introduce you to a past guest of mine and a friend too, who was the first. She was given the first major role in network TV. Her name's Jerry Juhl. Do you know her? Mm-hmm. Yeah, she was on Different Strokes, I believe. Tony, help me out.
Facts of Life.
But she's been on the show. She's a friend of mine. She has, and I'm gonna get smacked in the head because I'm gonna get it mixed up. It's not MS. I think it's cerebral palsy. So she has a noticeable, gait as well. And Norman Leary cast her in, and she did many, many seasons. She was on Deadwood. She's an actress. So I'm going to set you two up to chat to see if that's something that you do want to pursue. I'm sure she can be very helpful. She was mentored by Carol Burnett.
Wow.
Really?
So this is all the, I just love, how it just no degrees of separation anymore.
Mhm.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool. So how are you coping during this COVID?
He's tired of being with us.
I know he's pretty good as parents.
I love not being at school, so
You love not being at school. That's honest.
He still is doing some teleschool or whatever you call it now.
Yeah. So you're not homeschooled normally.
no.
You go to school. You go to regular school.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's right down the street at the high school, and they're awesome.
Yeah,
I mean,
the
his
school's
team,
accommodating.
his team is just amazing. They really care about Jake, and they really care about him being successful.
Mhm.
You can tell that they just really care. Some people have horror stories. We
Yes.
are very lucky.
That's great. And it says you finished a triathlon?
Yeah, he actually did. He did two. So Jake and I did one, and then a couple weeks later, Jake and John did one. So we did the
Really?
swim, bike, and run. We're not amazing, okay, but
Hey,
Yeah.
I'm allergic to exercise, so I'm sure your scores are better than mine.
These days, especially.
Yeah, absolutely. Beautiful. So the last question that I always ask my guests is, what or who are you most grateful to in this thing called life? So on the count of 3, point to the person that you would want to have answer that question. 1, 2, 3. I think Jake got the most fingers on that one.
He is pretty amazing. He really, like people say, oh, you guys, and it's not, he really has that in him. We sort of follow his lead, and we try not to treat him differently. I mean, obviously we have to get him dressed, do all those things, but he still dusts and he complains about it. We really do try to not treat him differently. It's
right.
important.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. And so you're most grateful for Jake. Is that what you're saying? Okay. John?
Yeah. I think I always told him everybody's here for a reason. And I think he's here to teach us some lessons, and he certainly has in his 17 years.
What's
He's
the
made me a better person.
Yeah. What's the biggest lesson you've gotten?
I think just really being humble and having empathy for everybody, not just, the football stars or the most popular people, but really understanding and having empathy for everybody.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And last but not least,
I'm most grateful for my niece and nephew, just because I feel like in the future, it's crazy that I'm this young and I'm an uncle, so I was expecting to be an uncle, when I was way older than this, but I'm this young. And so I get to teach my niece and nephew life lessons while I'm this age. And it's just the most amazing thing because it comes up so quickly to, teach them great life lessons. That's really what I'm most grateful for.
How old are they and what are their names so we can do a peace out to them?
Ellie and Tyler, my niece and nephew. Ellie is going to be 8.
Yeah.
Which crazy it's
I
been.
know.
When you have a 17-year-old say it's crazy they're that old, that's a little concerning.
Tyler is 5.
Tyler's 5. That's beautiful. And he's the one that also carries that. So, hey, he's got a perfect big brother role model for him, which is really awesome. Yeah, that's beautiful. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Is there any one last message that you want to give? Anyone?
I think Jake's, we have it, it's a hashtag now.
Good.
Hashtag don't live the diagnosis, live the life.
Did I call it? I called it before I even knew it was a hashtag. That's the book title. Don't live the diagnosis. What was the second part?
Live the life.
Don't live that's a long hashtag, guy. don't I only have to write it once. Don't live the diagnosis, live the life. Beautiful. All right. So you ready for this? Yes. This is how we sign out for my show, which is peace in. John, you got to move your finger just a little more. There we go. Into the frame. Otherwise, it doesn't look good when there's only one finger. Peace in. Repeat after me. Peace in.
Peace in.
Peace out.
Peace out.
World peace.
World peace.
Through inner peace.
Through inner peace.
Thank you so much to the Marrazzos for coming on my show, and best to all of you. Keep in touch.
Thank you.
All right.
Take care.
Woohoo! That was fun. It's now time for the end of the show called The Balance Bar. When I invite you to balance with me, and since it is the Mother's Day show, I'm going to show you a couple of real quick clips of all the mothers and the daughters that are important in my life. lucky to have such beautiful, I've got not one mom, but two. I've got a Chinese mom and a white mom, and then my beautiful daughters. Happy Mother's Day to all of you. Hope you've enjoyed this episode. I am also going to be speaking tomorrow on female entrepreneurship at the Life Mastery Foundation. So the links will be on my social media, Instagram, Doc Balance, Dr. Marissa on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and just go there, give me the finger, this one, and follow, and you'll get all the information all the time. And I'm going to finish with a beloved message congratulating me for 8 years on the air with my big brother, Michael Bernard Beckwith, who wrote the foreword to this book. And as a special Mother's Day special Asian Oprah giveaway, the first 8 to go to the website, drmarissa.life, will get a free audio book as a result of this Mother's Day celebration. So I just so grateful. Love you all. We're going to close out with my big brother's message, Dr. Michael Bernard Beckwith, here on Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get happy with Dr. Marissa. Peace in, peace out, world peace through inner peace.
Marissa Pay, 8 years. 8 years of exuding hope, inspiration, great advice that you wanted to circulate, and basically bringing people together that they can begin to see that there's something extraordinary about them. 8 is a powerful number, as you know, from the Chinese domain, but you also know it from numerology. It's a number of manifestation. So you've manifested really, really good. And I'm just saying, congratulations for all the beings that you have touched. And I'm so glad to have walked the path with you. This is your big brother, Michael B. Beckwith from Agape International Spiritual Center, saying congratulations to Marissa Pay. Peace and dynamic and radical blessings.